whatever that means. I still don't know what the hashtag stuff means. All right, let me get us started here. The book is entitled All the King's Men. Have you ever heard that phrase?
Yes.
Where?
All the king's horses and all the king's men.
Say it again.
All the king's horses and all the king's men. I think it's from Humpty Dumpty.
All right, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall.
Humpty Dumpty cracked his
Oh.
head open.
All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put him back together again. So keep that in mind. He goes from Humpty Dumpty children's rhyme to Dante. This is from Purgatory. I won't try to read it. Now, remember, this isn't Latin. I mean, it's not Latin, it's Italian. Because Dante wrote, guys, listen,
That's the salsa, right?
Dante wrote Inferno or Purgatory in Italian, and it says this. It's actually part of it. What I'm going to read you is more than here, but I'm going to read you the whole context. It said that man is not so lost that eternal love cannot return, so long as hope retaineth aught of grain. And you have your book. If you want to turn to the epigraph, that's what this is. It's a literary term. So if you'll find I'm using this. It's curled up at the edges, and all my notes are here, so I'm not about to start another set of notes. But do you have the epigraph? It took me a while to find it. Do you have it in? It's in there. I'm sure it's in there. Literally, the first open the cover. It's practically right there in front of you.
Shut up, John.
Hey.
Did everybody find it?
You call me stupid.
Well, it's some
right.
words.
All right, let me give you, I don't expect you to write that down. You could write this down. Eternal love cannot return. Let me just read the whole thing. Man is not so lost that eternal love cannot return, so long as hope retaineth aught of green. So, at the very least, write this down. This is the theme of hope and redemption.
Can you say it again?
It's the theme of hope. Oh, the line. Man is not so lost that eternal love cannot return, so long as hope retaineth aught of grain. As long as there's even the slightest chance, a little bit of hope, man is not lost. So in a book that I had a student one time tell me she loved the book, she hated all the characters, which I think that's a remarkably accurate response to this book. Everybody's got flaws. I actually like a couple of the characters, despite their flaws. It's really kind of a dark story. It's about the darkness of the human heart. But there's hope. At the beginning, there's hope. At the end of the book, there's hope. Actually, the book has a happy ending, which a lot of critics criticize because you wouldn't see this coming. So sometimes you have a bad ending and you didn't see it coming. This is a happy ending. People criticize the book. That's not believable. I like it, but I like happy endings. But it is the theme of redemption and hope. So that's an epigraph. Write that down. E-P-I graph. G-R-A-P-H. That is a literary term. So an epigraph is what this is. It's a statement that comes at the beginning of a book, usually to cast some light on the theme and meaning of the book. So you're getting already from the title of the book, from the epigraph, you're getting, I think it's in some ways a modern epic story. It's almost a modern version of Inferno or Divine Comedy. It's almost like a modern version of Paradise Lost. I think that's what he's doing here. He's trying to create such a thing. So there's so much meaning to be had. All the King's Men. All right. An epigraph that I've asked you to define is a quotation set at the beginning of a literary work or one of its divisions to suggest its theme. you've heard of an epilogue. What's an epilogue? Prologue, what's a prologue?
Epilogue is a little short passage following the book.
Prologue would be before, right? So epilogue, you're right, would be after. It's something that occurs after the story is over.
Sometimes it rounds out ends of the story and tries to conclude it together.
Yeah, and here's that quoting, I forgot that I had it, so if you didn't get it first time, man is not so lost that eternal love cannot return, so long as hope retaineth aught, a thread, a sliver, a speck of green. As long as it's green in the plant, it's got some hope. The Bible says that, I think it's Ecclesiastes, where there's life, there's hope. Once the guy's gone, it's over. There's no chance, nothing, no relationship to God can be established. You can't pray for them. We believe that's not going to do any good. They are where they are. That's why even if that guy's got one, small tick in the heartbeat on the table, if he, like the two men on the cross, if he came to know Jesus, that he would be good. But after that, eternity. And eternity, I've been told, is a long time. And that's from Purgatory. So I think he's evoking Dante in this massive book. And I think it seems to have gotten bigger since I read it. 'Cause I can't believe I read a book that long when I was your age, but I did. And I think the book literally wasn't that long. It's the same number of pages, but I think it was the edition. It was a lot smaller than that. All right, the background of the novel is as fascinating as the novel. And this backstory is interesting as the novel. It's published in 1946. What's going on in the world in 1946? Anybody have any idea?
The end of World War II.
World War II is over. So when I see 46, I was born in 52. So the war had been over 7 years. It's 1945. It ended.
Are we talking all of World War II or just European World War II?
The European War ended, in April or May, and then the Pacific War ended in August with the 2 atomic bombs. Genre, roman or Roman à clef. That sounds French to me, I butchered it. And it's a novel in which actual persons and events are presented under the guise of fiction. Seems to me that's opposite of a historical novel. Historical novel, you take fictional characters that are presented under the guise of fact. Like Ivanhoe is not a real person, he's a fictitious character. But he's in there with Richard I and with Robin Hood, who himself might be fictional, but anyway, I didn't read it, I don't know much about it. It was called something, has the word colors in it, which would help if I remember the title, but it was a book about Bill Clinton. And the Lewinsky thing and all of that,
Oh, no,
but it didn't use Clinton's name, but it was clearly about Clinton and Hillary and their life. That's a roman or roman à clef.
I did not inhale.
Mike, can I go on?
Retaineth all
Alright.
the
So here's Robert Penn Warren, and I say he's one of my favorite writers. I think I've only read one thing by him. So that's hardly proof that I've read several short stories by him. I like Southern writers. This is a Southern book. Any LSU fans in here? Are you really? Well, the main character in the book, his son plays for LSU, except it's not called LSU, it's just called State. But it's clearly Louisiana. So,
Where's your coach?
Coach O.
all right, so he lived 1905 to 1989, so he was a 20th century writer. He was a Pulitzer Prize. Kyle asked me if that's a big deal, and yes, it is. It's the American, I don't know if they do it every year, But if you're a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist or novelist, that's a big deal. That's the best we have to offer.
Unlike, what is it, New York Times bestseller or something?
Everyone.
Just about
Everything
everybody.
these days has
That's
that.
the participation.
Well, you know how few people read books now, so it doesn't
Yeah.
take a lot of books to be a bestseller. I hate to say that, but we know it's true. You know what a poet laureate is? You ever heard of a poet laureate? The state of North Carolina has had one. It's an honorary post that a president can or may not. I mean, it's no required. There's nothing in the Constitution about it. But he may appoint so and so, and this person attends official type events and writes official poetry. You know, you'd hate to work for the government, be an artist. That seems to be contradictory. You know, artists are rebels. You know, artists are independent. But anyway, it's an honorary tag. He was America's first. Just to give you some idea, Albert Lord Tennyson, the great writer of the 19th century in England, he was a poet laureate. So they had the tradition longer than we do. He was also an important literary critic and leader of the Southern Literary Revival. So then maybe that's why I remember him, because reading criticism, when I say criticism, I don't mean like critical as a pejorative term, as a negative term. I mean criticism as analyst, someone who analyzes literature and sets up rules and standards and evaluates. That's what he did. So Coleridge was a guy like that. If you were ever in English, you spend some time in there, you'll read literary criticism. We don't do that much here. I don't know if Dr. Betzel does it next year, but these guys analyze and sort of set standards. Coleridge was a literary critic, Robert Penn Warren was. He wrote 40 books in his spare time. If you want to be a writer, you better have a real job and write. That's the only way you can make it, is to have a real job. Chaucer did it. Some of the great, Dante did it. You know, Dante wrote while he was still working. You remember him, he worked for the government like Chaucer did, worked for the government, I guess is correct. But anyway, you need to have a real job and then write. And if you like writing enough and are doing well at it, maybe you can quit your real job and make money. Or in my case, one day retire. I think every teacher has a book in them, whether anybody but their family reads it. You know, you can self-publish now, so you don't need a publisher just to get a hardback cover to your book. All right. Yeah, he wrote this right at the end of World War II. He started it while in Europe. That is, Robert Penn Warren started the book while he was in Europe. And he was seeing fascism, totalitarianism, communism. You know, fascists are bad guys, but communists are bad guys too. Well, what?
Are also bad guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you pick your poison. You want a fascist dictator, you want a communist dictator. It doesn't really matter, they look the same.
Either
Hitler,
way, you'll probably end up starving to death.
that's right, Hitler was a fascist. Stalin was a communist. Which, you want to pick which is the worst of those two? I mean, they're both.
They're not lesser. They're pretty much equal. There's several million Russians.
One had a few more. Body count department.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, this book is about,
Easy. Someone killed a whole lot of Russians, though.
this book is about,
You know.
this book is about what some people call America's first dictator. And that is, our character Willie Tallows is based on the guy that we're going to learn about in a minute. But some people, he was running for president when he was assassinated. He wasn't even a president, he was a governor. In fact, he was a senator when he was assassinated. And he was assassinated in the same manner in which the character in the book. So it's very close to the events in real life. But he was impressed with the power. I actually like Willie Talos. There are things about him, I don't think I could see anything in Adolf Hitler or Stalin I would like, but Willie Talos, at least Willie Talos, I'm not sure that the real guy was, but Willie Talos, there were some good things about him. And his methods were questionable, but he does not come across as like, you know, as a Hitler or Stalin at all. I'm not sure let me show you something. The first day I taught at Caldwell, the first day I walked into Caldwell 17 years ago. This book was on the shelf, and I have yet to read it. It was here when I got here. Huey Long is the real person that Willie Talos is named after.
What did Huey Long do?
He was the governor of Louisiana.
Was he a dictator?
Well, some people thought he was. So I'm gonna take this book with me someday and read it. Haven't had time. All right, let me keep going here. Yes.
Can you go back for like 1 second?
We never had confirmation of that.
All right. Historical background. Warren's protagonist, and notice it said protagonist. I don't think a total villain would be the protagonist. You know, you would not be able to tolerate the villain as being the only likable guy. I think there has to be something likable about a protagonist. So from the beginning, you see that Willie Stark, or Willie Talos, is, you know, there's something human about him, something we might even like. It was based on Governor Huey Long of Louisiana, who served as governor one term. Our Willie Talos serves 2 terms as governor. The original 1 term as governor, and he was in his first term as U.S. Senator when he was murdered 1 month after announcing his run for president against Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt, I believe he was elected in 1932. It's interesting, it's the same year Adolf Hitler, I believe, became chancellor of, I think he became chancellor, yeah. So, FDR became, you know, for 4 terms, and the law was changed, the Constitution was amended. But he was in his first term and was assassinated, and he was famous for being a great speaker.
He was too good of a speaker, I had to put him down.
Well, very effective. He was effective. All right. Just finish this so I can get through. Let me go on. All right, Huey Long, who was he? Hey guys, let's try to keep your conversation to a minimum. I'd like to be able to finish this. All right, Huey Long was a populist. It's one who believes in the rights, wisdom, virtues of common people. Donald Trump, many people still call him a populist. But one who believes in the rights, wisdom, and virtues of the common. A lot of presidential candidates, they wouldn't call themselves that, claim to be speaking for the middle class, the average person. And but that's because the middle class is by far the largest group in America. Secondly, he was a demagogue, which kind of goes hand in hand sometimes with being a populist, but not necessarily. A demagogue is a leader who makes use of popular prejudices and false claims and promises in order to gain power.
So what you're saying is a politician.
Yeah, I mean, politicians often do that.
That's not political.
Joe Biden is not.
The guy just tries to stay focused. Right, so Huey Long and Willie Talos combines those characteristics. So he's a populist and a demagogue. I think it's interesting, this word is up here, I didn't put it up here, but a demigod and a demagogue are two different things.
Oh, they have a definition.
Yeah. So we're talking about a demagogue here.
Who wrote that?
I'm not sure, I don't think the same person wrote this. They might be.
They got the definition wrong, though, demigod. The offspring of God is immortal, not an immortal. One is this partial mortality.
All right.
Then there should be the next president of the United States.
Heck no, I don't want that, I don't want a responsibility. I really don't want that responsibility.
It's up to Jim Davis.
All right, can I go on? All right, so here's some of the characters. Willie Talos is named after the brutal, pitiless servant of the knight in Edmund Spenser's Faerie Queene, kind of a forgotten epic poem of England. And there's a character that he's named after. He's an idealist at the beginning who becomes a realist. He becomes corrupt, immoral, powerful, and great. The word great's an interesting word. At the end of the book, Willie Talos, his wife, after he's dead, gone, asks the narrator, Jack Burton is the narrator, he says, was he a great man? He asked Jack Burton, was he a great man? And Jack Burton agrees with him. I don't think you'd say that about a Stalin or a Hitler, but this guy, you could make the argument.
There's a difference between great and good, if we're talking about, not in terms of character, but just in terms of deeds.
I understand that, but I still don't think anybody would call Hitler a great, I mean, most people see that as good, even though it may not be technically what it means. If you call somebody great, you I think would be misunderstood. But I think she means it both. Was he effective? Was he powerful? Was he good? And Jack Burton agrees with it. You'll have to make your own decision if you think he was great in that respect. His wife is a lot like the wife when we read Death of a Salesman. Long-suffering, faithful, and naive. I can't remember what her name is in the other book. But anyway, Jack Burton is my favorite character. He is the narrator. So he says every word in the book is out of the mouth of Jack Burton. He is an idealist, but also, I should have put realist, because he has both qualities, just like Willie does. He has these idealistic views. He is he's powerful, not so much physically. He's got a great mind. He's searching. He's looking for things. He's looking for answers. He's a reporter. I mean, he is what his job is. He's investigating life, and he does so through the dimension of politics. But he's afraid of responsibility. A lot of people in this book are. They run away from responsibility to try to avoid it. He can be sarcastic, like all of us can, if someone we want to, but It's one of the things I like about him. It's a dark kind of humor. And he can be cynical, which means he sort of expects the worst from people. All right, so I'm gonna ask you, hang on, we're not leaving till I tell you this. I'm gonna give you a week to read the first chapter. We may have to adjust that. So start reading. There is a literary terms quiz on Thursday. I changed that. Somebody said it was.
It's on Thursday?
It's Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I intended it all along. I don't know how I got there on Tuesday. So it is Thursday. We will see you. You have a break.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer.
All right, see you.
We have a break now.